All right, welcome everybody to Talk Openly. My name's Jack, and I'm joined here by my wonderful friend Daniel. Daniel, hello. I know
Hello, hello, hello.
you're joining me from extra hot Sacramento tonight, so I appreciate
Uh-huh. Yeah, we're not yet talking about the hell realms, but when we get there,
we're gonna
we could talk about the heat in Sacramento.
yeah, you're certainly gonna get there at some point this
Yeah.
summer. Tonight we're gonna be talking about the Hungry Ghost realm.
Mhm.
And I think this is going to be a great conversation. I feel a lot of I don't know, I resonate with the hungry ghosts. And
Oh
so,
man, Jack, I was gonna say when thinking about this and yeah, well, just thinking about it, I was like, I'm straight up not having a good time. I don't like the little mirror that
right?
you know what I mean? Like I'm like, wait a second, I've got a little hungry ghost in me, maybe more than one.
Oh yeah, for sure. We're going to get into it. We're going to talk about, what these beings are, what their experience is like. How did they, get reborn in this realm? And, what are some things that we can draw from their experiences, to help us not have to deal with that kind of suffering. So I'm looking forward to it, that second half of our show tonight.
Me too. Me too.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear how you're doing, what's going on, how's your training and practice and all the things.
All in all, things are pretty good. I'd say pretty mundane, boring. You know,
Yeah.
speaking of boredom, I'm working on my talk. I've been procrastinating. So I made this mistake. I think I may have mentioned this, but I booked a talk at the Dharma Center for like the day after I get back, or the like from I'm leaving to go to Spain. So I'm gonna be jet lagged and whatnot, and I won't have time while I'm away to work on the talk. So it's interesting. I've known it's coming for a while. I've known my topic for a while, and I have every time I like sit down, I'm like, there's resistance. There's this
Yeah.
sort of like this like nah, something else, something else. I'll get to it. I'll get to it. And now sort of like the time is it's coming getting closer and closer, and I'm like, oh gosh, I have to do this. I have to do it. And so I've been working on it, and that too, just like this, I think any topic really that we're focused on within Buddha Dharma is an opportunity for self-reflection. And so this topic that I've chosen about boredom and aggression towards peace is really interesting to see how it unfolds in my own daily life and in my practice. Um, Speaking of which, my meditation practice is it's decent, but it's a little bit uh, not taking, I guess maybe not taking it quite as seriously as I have in the past, at least for like the last week or so since we last talked. There's a little bit of like not giving it quite the same level of importance as I have in the past. And sometimes that's just where we're at. But I'm like, I notice immediately, it's kind of like a drug or something, where I notice like changes quite quickly, where I'm like, oh, my tolerance is kind of down, like my patience is a little bit thin. And in fact, my this sort of like desire to distract myself,
Yeah.
right, that I'm talking about with the procrastination stuff is higher. So if I'm engaged in my daily meditation practice, I'm not so likely to engage in that kind of procrastination. I'm more likely to just like focus and stay on whatever it is that needs to be done. And so I notice that there's this sort of like distractibility going on. And even interestingly enough, I have, I've taken these vows, right, including the vow not to consume intoxicants. And yet, it's been really interesting to watch over the course of like this last week or so, this strong urge,
Mhm.
right? It's interesting because it's not always there, right? But
Yeah.
then there are these times that it shows up, and I have realized I'm like, oh, right. When I start yearning for that, I there's a couple of things that come up. One of them is just remember all the hell it caused you in the
Yeah.
past, right? And how dissatisfied you were, and how hard you worked to try to put that down.
Yeah.
And like speaking of hungry ghosts, right? Like I could consume, and I would never be satisfied. I never was in the past, and I consumed a lot. right? And yet my ignorance, my delusion sort of begins to become more clear. I'm like, oh, I'm seeking refuge, right? I'm
Mhm.
looking, and then I'm like, wait a second, I know how to take refuge. I know what to take refuge in. I know how to do that, right? And yet there's a little bit of resistance there. So there's this sort of like, I want an easy way out, like give me a cold beer and a joint
Yeah.
or something, right? And I haven't succumbed to that. I don't think I will, but it's interesting to watch, right?
Yeah.
And to see
Yeah.
how like no, the daily meditation practice, being regular and consistent with it is incredibly helpful. And even just a little bit of, I wouldn't even say like missing it entirely because I'm not. I am still meditating, but it's my sort of like, yeah, it's a thing to do. Sort of like it's
Yeah. Like the
casual.
quality of attention, would you say?
Yeah, quality of what?
Of
Attention or
attention.
intention?
Yeah. And both. Yeah. Attention, intention, certainly.
I think it's actually a little bit more of the latter. The quality of my intention is sort of like, it's just a thing I do, right?
Yeah.
And so like the what I bring into it is not quite the same. Anyway, it's
Yeah.
interesting to watch. There's a part of me that I can see also this sort of tendency to be like, I'm bad, or I'm
Hmm.
I'm not
Hmm.
I'm not fulfilling my obligations or whatever. And then that's interesting to look at too. So the mindfulness aspect of it is still there. I'm mindful of it all. I'm watching it
Great.
happen. So like there is practice, but my training is just a little. I'm just you know what it reminds me of, Jack? My
Mm.
kids are both in school, middle school and high school. It's like senior, like when like what do you call it? Like the end
Like
of
senioritis.
senioritis. It's kind
Yeah.
of like that. And I don't think I'm about to graduate anytime soon, but there is this sort of feeling. Maybe it's just the shift in seasons and stuff where I'm like,
Yeah.
it's actually true. It's not just meditation. I actually feel this way okay, so towards my preparation for the talk, uh, towards meditation and towards my work as well,
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
regular or secular work. So maybe it is a seasonal thing where I'm just like,
For sure. Yeah.
I don't want
Well,
to do
and
any of
you're
these.
heading out to Spain for 2 weeks. I imagine that has to be a big, exciting distraction as well.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It is. I'm totally looking forward to that. Yeah. But anyway, so that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all good.
Cool. Well, I really admire hearing your reflections on where you're at. That uh, I don't hear any kind of shaming of yourself for being where
It's
you are.
there. There
Is
is.
there a little bit? Oh, you did mention, yeah, that kind of like, oh, am I bad?
There is a touch of that.
Yeah,
There is like
yeah,
this sort of oh, like you could do better. You're just being
sure,
lazy.
yeah, yeah.
Like there is that sort of negative self-talk around it.
Totally.
It's there.
Well, and, I know like some of our favorite teachers like Shanti Deva and even like Tupten Chodron, they can be a little bit harsh, right? But they do it with such compassion. The intention behind it is compassion. And so
It's right.
I think being firm with ourselves sometimes is good, right, kind of right effort, but we do have to look at um the motivation behind that. So if it is just kind of like cruelty or low self-esteem, those are not
Yeah,
the
those are
teachers.
hindrances.
Those are
Yeah.
hindrances. So
Yeah.
yeah, so that might be interesting to look at. I'm also really curious to like when you come back, I'd love to see how boredom showed up on your vacation. You
Ooh, all right.
know?
All right.
Like
Yeah.
that'll be really interesting.
Well, you know what? Okay, so part of the resistance to this talk has to do with the fact that and resistance and the benefit of giving a talk on the subject is that I have never really I'm not a person who gets bored easily.
Mm,
And so I can't actually remember the last time that I felt profoundly bored. Even as a kid, I was never really bored.
mm,
And so, and I think that the reason for that is that I developed very early on an aversion to it.
Hmm.
that shows up as distraction. And so if I'm not distracted outwardly by things, out in the sort of out in the world, then I can easily distract myself mentally. And that's what brought this whole thing on, right? It was a discussion with Matthew where I'm like, yeah, there's this dreamy quality to my meditations and I'm distracted and whatever. And then it turns out like, yeah, actually quite likely isn't it is in fact an aversion to boredom that's so strong
Hmm.
that I really have done a good job creating this habit pattern of distraction that shows up on both sort of these gross levels and these subtle levels.
Yeah.
And so that means I have to sort of be with it a little bit more. I have to stay, I have to practice boredom,
Yeah,
you know.
totally.
And
Yeah.
yeah, there's some man, I won't give away the whole talk, but there's a lot of value. There's a lot of value in practicing boredom.
Are there some good meditations that one can do to just kind of like be in the boredom? What does it even?
Yeah, okay, quick story. I'm not a Zen, I've never been a Zen practitioner and I don't know a lot about the Zen tradition. But in preparing the talk, I learned about Bodhidharma. I suppose my take is the founder of Zen Buddhism.
Hmm.
And that he had come like from India, gone to China, and long, difficult voyage and whatnot. It was all difficult, hard times getting there, and he gets there and he's not like all that well received. There aren't a lot of people looking for the teachings or whatever. And he ends up going into a cave or somewhere and looking at a wall, like sitting across from a blank wall
Mm-hmm.
and staying there for 9 years meditating with this blank wall. And I think that that might be a uh maybe, it's a story. So
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure how it played out in real life, but apparently within Zen practice it's a thing still, right, where you literally are just staring at a blank wall.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, no, it's I've done that as well where I'll just kind
Sure.
of like just and it's not spacing out, still paying
No.
attention very much. But it is boring. At least right
Well,
now. And maybe that boredom or my definition of boredom will change over time.
for
Um,
sure, for
yeah.
sure, okay, but that's the part that is really fascinating. And I was talking to Lama about this, about how when we realize that we're bored, if we can, instead of trying to distract ourselves from it, if we, like Trungpa says, it has this like juicy quality to it. It's
Mm.
alive, but
Hmm.
the energy of boredom is alive. And if we're with it, if we bring our, we're like we're aware of it and we're sitting with it, it's the boredom itself is not boring.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just a state of mind and you can
Yeah,
examine it just like anything else.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, cool. I'm looking forward to that talk, Daniel.
Yeah. I even have a prop. So you have to
Sweet.
come. You got to come see my prop.
I can't come in person though,
No,
Dan.
no, you got to see it. Well,
Dang it.
I'll tell the sound people to zoom in on it so you can
Oh,
see it.
good. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Nice.
So anyway, that's where I'm at. That's what's going on with me, and I want to hear all about you.
Cool. Sure. Yeah. Well, I'm amazingly, I'm at the complete end of my school program. I graduate on Sunday. It is bizarre how time has
Hmm.
passed.
It seems like only yesterday.
It really seems like only yesterday and also like an interminable amount of time.
Yeah.
So at the same time, so it's been it really caught up on me. And so there's all these kind of endings that are happening, endings slash beginnings. And
Hmm.
what's interesting is that, when I imagine those things in my head, it's like there's this kind of dramatic like closure. But really what's happening is that like life is just continuing. There's this continuance, right? And so
Yeah.
it's kind of fun to watch like these narratives that I have around like, and then when I get to that, then I'll be chill, right? So like once
Hmm.
I get to my graduation, then I'll be chill. once I start my new job, then I'll be a new human. You know, like, um, and it's not that I'm like actively thinking those things, but when I really start to examine those thoughts or like these kind of fantasies I have around what it's going to look like, it's like, but you're still going to be the same person in this same continuance of your mind stream and karma. So like you're still living your life. It's not like it's going to
Right.
be some dramatic difference. And of course it is going to be different. But so that's been kind of interesting to watch. Um, and yeah, just also dealing with a lot of like ups and downs throughout the day. Like
Like emotional ups and downs, is it?
kind of like with my stress. So like it'll, for example, like yesterday in the morning I was feeling like really pissed off about like the starting salary for this new job, because the night before I had gone to a seminar with my other classmates who were talking about like salaries that I had never even dreamed about.
Ooh, that's hard. Okay. All
Right, like the
right.
comparison thing, right? Like
Mm.
just grasping at like, wait, I could have had that, like
Yeah.
WTF, like, but I'm moving to a rural area and rural hospitals can't pay as much. They just can't. And um, but anyway, so I was having like all this kind of just like icky, like just really like icky
Yeah.
stuff in the morning. Um, and then I looked at my hourly rate and like, uh asked for the salary range like on my phone, or what the salary would be, the annual salary, and it was way more than I had calculated it originally.
What?
So I was like, what? Woo!
Oh my God, talk about a
Then it
roller
went
coaster of emotion.
roller coaster, right? But then it was like I was looking up like these loan repayment programs for healthcare workers, and then it went down
Oh,
because like, my my new job wasn't one of like the sites for this kind of national program.
oh,
Um, and it's this long qualification process to do that.
of course, yeah.
But then I get in contact with this state, kind of the Department of Health, and they tell me about a Washington State program that my my job is part of, where I can get loan forgiveness. So it was just like this all day,
Oh wow.
and all of it was so centered around grasping and just really clinging to an external notion of happiness, and not from my own kind of internal efforts, but just like what can I get, what
Yeah, yeah,
um and like we all need jobs, we all ideally can have like a cushion and savings and all those
yeah,
things, right? that's
yeah.
that's really great. But I have been doing so fine right now where I'm at with like a salary that's much lower than I'm going to be making. And so it kind of hit me in the heart where I was like, dude, like, what is all this that you're like striving for? Like, yeah, I know like you want to help buy a house with your friends, but like it'll just take a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're fine. Like you're actually so good. And so I have been doing some meditations on attachment and on craving and you know eight worldly concerns, um, and that's been really stabilizing.
What would you, so for somebody who is experiencing, financial woes or concerns or stress or worries about not making enough, having enough, or wanting more than what they're getting, what kind of meditative practice would you recommend, or how would you, yeah, what would you say to such a person?
Yeah. Well, I mean, someone who's fortunate to be in the circumstances that I'm in, where it's like I do have a roof over my head. I don't have to worry about, when my next meal is going to be. Like I've got my basic needs taken care of. If that's the situation that you're in, um, really pausing to get a very clear sense of everything that you have in your life. I think cultivating gratitude is
Yeah.
just such a powerful antidote. And if you are practicing, religious Buddhism, um, just over and over going over the meditation of recognizing that we have a precious human life. We're practicing the Dharma. We live we live in an age and an area where the Dharma is actually flourishing. And we can learn. We're in this life that we can learn. And so it's all about like reorienting my mind
Yeah.
towards what's actually important, and what's actually going to help me transform my mind and my experience, which will also transform the way I look at when things feel shitty or even scary financially. Like
Yeah.
I will just engage with that differently. Um, and kind of like you, Daniel, like I've noticed a little bit of I think because I'm so distracted outwardly the last, month or two, there is this kind of like just this lack of gratitude, I think. Like, and so I really have to be working on that one. And I've been mindful of it. It sounds like, you've been mindful of your kind of dips a little bit as well.
Yeah.
um but yeah, so I've noticed a little bit of like reorienting back to these kind of, worldly things. And so and it's such like a huge, like a heavy current,
Yeah.
like I've been living that for many, many lifetimes. And so to reorient and shift, it does take effort. And sometimes I feel pissed. I'm like, I just want to feel scared right now. Like I just want to feel pissed off.
Yeah.
Someone else is going to be
Right.
making like 40,000 more dollars a year than I am,
Yeah.
like that
Yeah.
pisses me off,
Right.
like,
Right.
so, um,
I'm aware that I'm pissed off.
yeah, right. I'm
Right.
aware that I'm pissed off.
Yeah.
And one thing that's good about that is that I'm not going out and trying to seek another job. Like I'm
Right.
not
You're
gonna
not
I'm
reacting.
not reacting. I'm not doing like a silly thing like commuting 2 hours a day so I can make the
Yeah.
same amount out in Seattle versus where I'm gonna be,
Right.
So that's good. Those are good
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. Well, and I think, that other aspect of it where, sort of there's this, I know Lama's talked about it quite a bit where there is in our practice or in our training both, there's this weaving quality. There is this sort of like sometimes like we're super into the sort of religious spiritual, like we're super devoted and serious about our practice, and then it goes a bit more into the more sort of relative ordinary experience, and there's this sort of like
Yeah.
that's that finding the balance, that's this weaving in and out, right?
Yeah.
And we don't, it's like we haven't, at least based upon what I feel and what I hear you saying, it's not like we've lost our balance. It's
Yeah.
not like we fell over completely,
Right.
right?
Right.
Like we're just sort of like, whoa, whoa, oh, feeling that, feeling this, right? And then we know, like we recognize, oh, I know, I'm a little bit off this way. I'm gonna apply a little bit of pressure this other direction, and
Yeah.
then I'll be more balanced. And I know that I like being balanced.
Right. Yeah. That part is so
Yeah.
huge. Is that
Yeah, I
recognition?
like being balanced. It feels
I like
good to be
it.
balanced.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, and one thing that really helps me stay balanced, I think, is, I keep my precepts as best as I can. Those are things that have
Yeah.
become a little bit more second nature as I've been practicing them over the last few years. And I think if I did not have those things kind of, bolstering me up, having like that as scaffolding, then this time would be really hard.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Like
Absolutely.
the last couple months would
Absolutely.
have been really, really hard. Yeah.
Right, right, right. Removing those, so that's the kind of cool thing about it, is that removing some of those things that throw us off balance by just saying like, no, I know that that's going to throw me off. I'm not going to do that, right? I'm not going to engage in that because it's not helpful. I've already done it plenty, right?
Yeah.
Like I already know where that goes. And so like recognizing that that's our own, that's support, that's safety for us, right?
Yeah.
What is it? How does it go within the refuge sadhana? To support my dharma practice and the dharma practice of
Mm.
others, we take these
Mhm.
vows.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because it is about we're doing that for ourselves, but also so that, we don't harm others as well. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
So true.
Sweet. Well, what do you say? Should we do a Lojong slogan?
Well, I just wanted to, before we do the Lojong slogan, I
Yeah,
just wanted to
please.
say congratulations on graduating,
Thank
and
you.
I hope that the fruits of your labor and effort and all of that are plentiful and
Thank
they
you.
make you feel completely satisfied, and at some point recognize your deep wealth, both
Thank
financial and
you.
otherwise.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I have a little note on my altar right now that says the only wealth is Dharma. So
Amen.
I'm really
Amen.
trying to
Right.
internalize that one.
Yeah, good one. Good one. I like it. I like it. All right. Yes, now we can enrich ourselves with a little bit of mind training through the random Lojong slogan generator.
Great.
All right. Let me know. Can you see my screen?
I can see you.
All right. I'm going to push the fancy orange button for a Lojong slogan.
Great.
Ooh,
Ooh,
good.
yeah,
All
nice.
right. Nice reminder.
So this is early on. This is number two. Regard all phenomena as dreams. This is a long little back and forth here. I don't remember the okay, so this is in the Perfection of Wisdom Sutra in 8,000 lines. Um, and it looks like Subhuti, who I believe is some kind of, he's some merchant's son, right? He's kind of interested in Dharma. Um, and he's talking with these gods. I think I've
Okay.
got that
Okay.
right.
Hey, how
Yeah,
about
but
this? You
tell
you
me. Yeah.
you be Subhuti, I'll be the
I
gods.
love it. Okay. All right. Here we go. So Subhuti said, so like a magical illusion are these beings, like a dream. For not two different things are magical illusion, and beings are dreams and beings. Any and all objective facts also are like a magical illusion, like a dream. The various classes of saints from stream winner to Buddhahood also are like a magical illusion, like a dream.
A fully enlightened Buddha also, you say, is like a magical illusion, is like a dream. Buddhahood also, you say, is like a magical illusion, is like a dream.
Even nirvana, I say, is like a magical illusion, is like a dream. How much more so anything else?
Even nirvana, holy Subhuti, you say, is like an illusion, is like a dream.
If perchance here could be anything even more distinguished, of such too I say is like an illusion, like a dream. For not two different things are illusion and nirvana, are dreams and nirvana. So here we go. It says, where are we?
But
I'll
uh,
keep reading.
okay, so all these beings then say, who, Subhuti, are these grasping this perfect wisdom as here explained?
And the Venerable Ananda said to these elders, Bodhisattvas incapable of falling back grasp this, or beings, persons reaching sound views, or arhats in whom the outflows are realized as dried up. And Subhuti says, no one grasps this perfect wisdom as here explained, i.e. explained in such a way as really no explanation at all, for no dharma at all is being indicated, lit up, or communicated. So here too is not even one grasping it. All right.
Hmm. Hmm.
Interesting. I actually haven't I don't remember that story.
I don't remember it either. I remember the Lojong slogan,
Yeah.
but not that. Yeah.
Guard all phenomena as dreams. What is that conversation about that they were exploring together?
Yeah, I take it as a conversation on emptiness, right? In the
Mm.
sense that uh there's this projection that, like there's this solidifying, a reifying of all phenomena. And in fact, that phenomena is nothing more than the magical display of dynamic energy, right? That's what that is. It's just right? And yet we kind of crystallize it, we create it, we solidify, and we say there's that, here's me, there's this other thing, right? And I like the use of dreams as a tool for contemplation like this, because it is really fascinating, isn't it, that in the dreams there are these other beings. There is a self and there is other in the dream, and you
Yeah.
don't have access to that other's mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're not consciously controlling that other being, right? So it's kind of fascinating that that's, like, yeah, ordinary reality is something like dreams as well. And I think it kind of begs the question,
For sure.
Lama was asking this the other day during uh, an administrative meeting. Before, we had a little meditation on wakefulness, and he said we're going to just meditate on being awake. What does that mean, right?
Mm.
And it is kind of an interesting thing. What exactly is, so we say
Versus being asleep.
dreams happen when we're sleeping, right? So what is waking then?
Yeah.
Right. What exactly is that? And you can kind of see why Buddha is the awakened one, because he awakens to reality as it is,
Yeah.
right? Not as the dream. It's rather like, this is, I see it. I see the truth of the way things are.
Yeah. Well, and interesting that you bring up that we're talking about dreams too. I was learning about a little bit of dream kind of theory and like psychoanalysis and whatnot. And sometimes other people in our dreams are just projections of some part of ourselves that are not being given space or time to share what they have to share. And so I think that that's actually pretty relevant in waking life too, right? Is that so much of waking life is just projection. Our perspective of other people, our, opinions of what's happening and what's right, what's
Oh
wrong.
my God, so much. It's
It's all
disgusting.
it's all projection.
Yeah, once you sort of begin to see it, you're like, oh my God, I just made that whole person up.
Yeah, yeah, it's fascinating. Yeah,
I thought I knew something, and then no, it's not at anything like what you thought it was. It was
yeah,
just your
for sure.
projections onto that person.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had an experience like that the other day. A friend of mine pocket dialed me, someone you and I know who has a very soft, kind, gentle demeanor.
Mm,
And they pocket dialed me, and they were letting loose on somebody, and it was, I was like, dang, dude, like, I've never seen this side of you.
mm,
And then, I hang up. I didn't want to listen in on the conversation. So I hang up. And then I'm like, wow. So I created this whole story. I was like, oh, maybe, whatever, this, that, the other thing. And then later I was like, hey, just so you know, I heard your conversation about it. Anyway, it turned out that it was all that the entire thing that I had witnessed, which was brief but pretty strong, turned out that it was nothing at all like what I had imagined. It turned out that they were defending the defenseless, and that's why they were angry. They were
wow.
they were trying to help somebody, and they were raising their, sort of, um, what do you call that? Their wrathful form, so to speak,
Sure,
in order
sure.
to try to help some other person. I thought it was quite fun, like, so, like, all these stories we make up about people and why they behave the way they do. And isn't it interesting too how it always relates to us?
Oh yeah.
It
Oh,
always comes back to, like, me somehow. The reason that person is frowning is because they don't like what I'm wearing, or
oh
they,
yeah. Oh,
like, they're not
I do
even
this
thinking about you.
all day. Yeah. Well, and I think my roommates are like the best practice object because I'm constantly thinking like, oh, they're mad at me
Yeah.
or like, oh, they think that something I'm
Nope.
doing is weird or offensive or and it's like turns out they were just feeling whatever they were feeling.
Right. Completely unrelated to you, had nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
You just
Yep.
observed it and
And
created a
even if
whole, yeah.
even if there was something to do with me, right? Like it's
Yeah.
always going to be different from how I'm reading the situation.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
There's just
Yeah.
yeah, I was gonna say before we close out this Mojang slogan, I really love that stanza of the praise to Shakyamuni Buddha, where it says, like a star, a mirage, a
Yeah.
lamp, illusions, drops of dew, bubbles, dreams, lightning, and clouds. Look at all conditioned phenomena as such. And sometimes I'll just bring up those images to mind, especially when I'm feeling like really strongly about something, and just kind of imagining it as like a bubble
Yeah,
is this beautiful way of just letting it kind of go do its bubble thing.
that's
So I
right.
encourage people to look at that.
I sometimes use I think of it in similar ways. Sometimes I think of it like not dreams, like rainbows. You know,
Hmm.
like it looks very real. Like I see it. It's there for sure. Like it has a whole form to it. It has qualities. It looks very solid, like real, you know. And no, it's just the combination of various causes and conditions give it that form right now.
Yep.
To me, the perceiver, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Super rad.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks for pulling that one up.
Uh-huh, uh-huh. That's fun.
And speaking of rainbows, happy Pride Month.
Hey,
Always.
right back at you.
I heard that didn't the Dharma Center do a thing at Pride?
Oh my gosh, you should see. Yes, and I'm gonna toot my own horn here a little bit.
Nice.
So I made a banner that
Okay.
hung on the Pride booth. I didn't go there. I was too busy, so I didn't get to see it in person, but I did get a picture of it. And it's super cool. It's
Oh, let's see.
yeah, I'm gonna send you a picture of it because it's I
Okay.
loved it. I loved it. I'm gonna send you a picture of it. It was it's a very, very, very colorful Buddha sitting there in meditation. Right next to him is like rainbow lion.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
Hell yeah.
And then it has
Uh,
like you'll love it. You'll love it.
Cool. I'm excited. Well, thanks for doing something for that. And thanks to our
Yeah.
tech for being involved. That
Heck
feels good.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's good to be part of our community.
sure is. Well, my friend, we're
Pretas.
talking, yeah, Pretas, the Preta realm, hungry
Yeah.
ghosts.
Mm.
This one scares me. Along with, we talked last week about the animal realm. The animal realm also scares me, but I'm familiar with it. Or at
Yeah.
least I think I'm familiar with it. I think if I were actually living as an animal, I'd be freaked out.
I had before we go into the pretas, I
Yeah.
had a conversation with my girlfriend this morning, and she says, I just wish I was an animal. I would just let, and coming on the heels of our conversation last week, I was
Yeah.
like, you sure about that?
No.
And then she's just like, shut up, like
Right?
you know what I mean.
Yep. Yep. My partner says that sometimes too. Like, I don't know if you want to be a dog.
Right, right,
Yeah.
yeah,
But so hungry ghosts are these creatures, these sentient beings, who are often depicted as having these like ginormous stomachs and like really tiny, tiny little necks, and they can never ever get enough food or liquid down into their bellies, and oftentimes it just doesn't even go through. Or I've even heard like some pretas, the food will turn into fire in their throats, and so they can't even eat. Their throats and mouths get scorched, and so just this like torturous level of craving that can never be satiated. This sounds terrible. I don't like it.
yeah, it's not even just that. The conditions of their existence are they sound terrible, right? But then there are these indicators that one of their days, just one day, is equal to 10 of our years.
No.
Yeah, and that they live for up to like 500 years
Of their years?
of their years,
Nope.
right?
Nope. I don't
So
like it.
it's a long time that they can be in this state, where they're just completely dissatisfied, unquenchable thirst, like they can't be sated, and it sounds so terrible.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and so how did they get here? Like how did the hungry ghosts get to this place of just like immense craving and despair?
Well,
What happens?
they somehow or other became conditioned to be that way. They spent a lot of time in whatever their previous existence was, engaging in various behaviors and creating a mental state or a mental pattern, if you will, of this type of craving, right? This deep desire. And it's interesting because uh, it's not like it's not very clear that it's not like a one-to-one sort of thing, like a karmic sort of retribution thing where, if you have intense craving, you're going to be born as one of these hungry ghosts.
Right.
It's not like that. The stories are quite fascinating about how people ended up as hungry ghosts. I find it's fascinating actually. So a lot of the stories are about women who refuse to give monks food during their alms rounds or otherwise mistreat the monks by giving them bad food or by giving them less desirable food. I mean, it's a lot around food, right? So it's not all just about food, but it's also things like taking food offerings from the temple, right? So there's a whole lot of those kinds of stories, but then there's more. There's way more than that. There's all kinds of other like people, like basically people who are like stingy,
Yeah.
right?
Oh no.
People who hoard. There's a oh my gosh,
Oh,
I think
hoarding. Yeah.
yeah, hoarding, improper use of resources,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Not sharing. So
Yeah.
basically the condition is that their craving and their behavior comes from this delusional, not understanding the interconnectedness of all things, of all beings, right? And
So it's like,
so
I'm gonna get mine.
I'm going to get mine, and I really want to talk to you about how this relates to capitalism.
Oh,
you know
please, let's
you
let's
know
jump right in.
oh, right, you want to do that right
We're
now?
creating a lot of like hungry ghost conditions with our economic system, aren't we? We encourage the behavior that leads to rebirth as a hungry ghost in this
That's
culture.
exactly it. So a lot of the stories about how people get reincarnated as hungry ghosts also involve things like misuse of like the justice system in order to acquire wealth,
Well,
falsely imprisoning people to take what's not rightfully theirs, you
yeah.
know? And so it's interesting that Sogyal Rinpoche says in the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying, he says, in a psychological sense, the hungry ghost realms exist wherever people, though immensely rich, are never satisfied, craving to take over this company or that one, or endlessly playing out their greed in court cases. And and I'm like, oh my God, like think about
Mhm.
all the patent lawyers out there,
Oh
right?
my God, yeah.
Like looking to patent genes and the natural, sort of like natural medicines and things like that, or
Yeah.
who've created a drug that cures something for a lot of people, and then they charge exorbitant rates, right? That is what creates hungry ghosts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that is everywhere. That is so pervasive in our culture. And I notice it even in just like kind of smaller acts that I engage in. It's like around tipping. Sometimes I'll like see the different like the options on the come up on the screen and it's like
Yeah.
15, 18, 20, 25. And for most transactions, there's really not like that much more. It's like cents, right? There's like
Mhm.
maybe like 25 cents more or whatever for each one. And sometimes I'm like, oh, I just like really I don't want to do like 25%, you know? But that's kind of hungry ghost behavior when I think about it, right? Is that like
I'm gonna argue with
I'm
you
just
about
gonna
this.
like take my
No,
25
no,
cents. You're gonna
I
argue with
I'm gonna
me?
argue with you
Oh,
about
that's
this.
funny. Okay, I know
All right.
there is a conversation around tipping that's happening
There
now.
is it, and it is
There
it is
really is.
overdue. I okay, so here's one of the interesting things about hungry ghosts is
Okay.
that so they're all let's back up a little. I promise we'll
Okay.
get back to the
Yeah,
tipping.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. But so the hungry ghosts, there are all kinds, according to the things that I read about, like there's 36 different kinds of hungry ghosts that have been classified, and they are fascinating to read about, right? Can I give you some of the names? All
Oh,
right.
please,
These
yeah.
I'm not going to give you all of them, but these are fascinating because and the way that it's structured is like, at least in one of the texts I saw, it's like they're given their name, a description of how they are and how their appetite and their conditions manifest and how they got there,
Mm.
or what the cause was that got them there. So there's the needle mouth ghost, and these are like the stingy people.
Ah,
And then there's vomit eating ghost.
no.
Yep. There's spit eating ghost. There's excrement eating ghost.
Oh,
There are
no.
Yes, there are baby eating ghosts,
What?
right? Yes,
Why
yes.
are they doing those things? What
Yeah,
got them
yeah. So
there?
the like the vomit eating ghosts, for example, they kept what was best for themselves and they gave inferior food or
Oh,
inferior things to others. They kept the
oh,
good things
I've
for
done
themselves.
that so many times.
Right, right.
I'm
So
like,
so
I want that little piece of cake. That looks good.
I'll take that one. They can have this little piece over here, right? Yeah, so that those are vomit eating ghosts. Interesting. There's a Dharma eating ghost.
Oh,
A Dharma eating ghost. Get this. So this is for people who have spread false doctrine as Dharma, right? So they
uh-oh.
get reincarnated as Dharma eating ghosts. Guess where they like to hang out?
Where?
They like to hang out where Dharma teachings are happening because they they want to feed on the real thing, right?
Ah,
But
so
the problem with all these ghosts is that they're like they actually sometimes it's not just that the food, like a lot of times the food and the even the words food and water doesn't show up in their world, but in other cases it appears, but they just can't quite get it.
yeah, it's like
Right?
their arms are like T-Rex arms or something. They like carry
Something like that. So okay,
around.
I'll give you one more. I'll give you one more. There's one. It's this one was I like this one. This was the wind. There was the wind eating ghost. So they see food and they see water, and so they go for it, but it's a mirage. It's just an
Uh,
appearance. It's just the wind, right? And this is because of their empty promises of charity. They're
what?
gonna give, but they don't give, right? So I think it's fascinating. I love this stuff. So, but the interesting thing is that so the story is okay. Are First of all, are they real? Hmm, I think
Yeah,
it's fine. I think it's a good idea. You don't have to believe in this in order to practice
right,
Buddha Dharma,
right,
right?
right,
Like
exactly. That you can see these as psychological states
totally,
that
100%,
where
right?
yeah, yeah.
We're not gonna argue about it one way or the other, but so to the degree that they do exist, some, not all of them, it attempt to influence human behavior in order to get what they want. And they have different levels of powers. There are some that are quite powerful,
Hmm,
right? And can in fact affect human beings. And so I was going to say, I think that the prevalence of these tips are the effect of hungry ghosts, the greedy capitalists who are
yeah,
running the payment systems.
right.
I myself in my business, I'm I know for a fact 'cause I work with them, how they are like always trying to squeeze more credit card transactions, right? How to get, because that's how they get their money. And they
Right.
squeeze every last little penny they can, right? And so the idea of, like, oh, we'll just build an app and on every screen we'll default to tipping
Yeah,
means that they get
yeah,
paid a lot more, right?
yeah,
And
totally.
we don't know whether those tips where they go, what happens. I mean, there are places that are asking for tips where there's not even a human being involved. It's a machine, right? And whatever, you put in your order and it says you want a tip, right?
Right.
It's just because it's a default in the app. I'm not against tipping, and I feel the exact same way as you about like the guilt and all of that. But I'm actively training myself. It's hard, really hard to go down, and even if I have to select other option, no tip, to do that. And if I feel like the person themselves, the person I'm interacting with, deserves a tip, and they many cases they do, and I want them to have it, then I'll give them some cash, right? Something
Mm.
else, because I'm like, no, I'm not feeding those other
Yeah,
capitalistic hungry
totally.
ghosts.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And then, there's also the argument that, why don't they just pay them at like an hourly
Yes,
wage
you're
that,
enabling
yeah,
terrible systems of abuse.
right. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
totally. Um,
Not you, Jack.
yeah, me. Well, so I wanted to talk about another kind of societal issue that I think, I'm surprised we haven't quite touched on yet, because it's when I think of hungry ghosts, I really, really think mostly of addiction.
Oh yeah.
And this is such a huge problem in our society right now. Um, and something that I've dealt with as well. I know that you've struggled with it as well. And the hungry ghost, in my experience, has been just this emptiness, and not
Yeah.
not the dharma emptiness, right, but this spiritual hollowness,
Yeah.
which, it sounds like these pretas that show up, they're more in like a sentient being, like a form,
Yeah.
whereas when I think of ghosts in our culture, they're these kind of like transparent, like ethereal, like you
Hmm.
can't quite place them. And so that's really interesting to me, is thinking of like this spiritual hollowness, this kind of like inability to find some, ethical or moral grounding, right? Which I know we've talked about, like the ground is always shifting, there is
Yeah.
no ground, but what we do find when we find a path is that there's, at least we know where we're going. And so for me, I think my addiction was really about not knowing what mattered to me, and not having a very clear sense of self, and so just kind of consuming, just like over consuming, to try and fill that void that felt so hopeless.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, the hungry ghost in this form is very much about like hopelessness, and lack of meaning. What do you think about that?
I think the good news is that as far as the hungry ghosts of addiction to substances in particular, um, is in the realm of hungry ghosts probably one of the more desirable ones. I
Yeah,
think because it's so clear, it's so obvious, right? Like even if you have to struggle with addiction for a long time, 500 years and these, you know what I mean, long stretches. In my case, I think decades, you know.
yeah,
Um, it was very, it became abundantly clear, right, that oh, I'm not going to satisfy that, right?
right.
There is no satisfaction at the bottom of that bottle. It's not there, right? That it doesn't matter. I could smoke, a pound of weed a day, and I'm gonna be more hollow actually,
Yeah,
right? It makes it worse. And it just makes my stomach expand and my throat close, right? And
yeah,
kind of literally as
yeah,
well, right?
totally.
Um, and it just doesn't like it's not getting me where I want to go, and maybe there's some sense that I don't even know where I want to go, and that's part of the problem. I don't know what true satisfaction is, and there was a sense of this like nihilism, right? Of like,
Oh, yeah,
like, ah, nothing matters. None of this makes any sense. I'm not even supposed to be here. Like what is all of this bullshit? Let me just try to drown it out. And if it worked, I wouldn't be here today, right?
yeah, right,
Because
exactly.
I would just do that. Like I would totally, if I could be satisfied, think I would sometimes imagine like Willie Nelson, and I'd be like, oh yeah, Like he's old, he's got it, he's okay, and he's like sitting there smoking his weed and stuff. I'm like, "Mm." I would sort of picture this fantasy of a world in which I eventually became satisfied and had all these things, right? But it
Mhm.
never worked out, and not in my case. Maybe Willie is. I hope he is, but not me, right? It did not work that way. And I think we're those of us who've had to struggle with that. I think we're fortunate because this hunger manifests in these other ways that are not so clear, and other ways that are societally acceptable and desirable and are viewed
For
as
sure.
success, and
Yeah.
that is terrible because it
Totally.
then you're on your great, you're on your deathbed, then you see it,
Oh yeah. Yeah. And it
right?
all
And
comes
then it's too late to
crashing
do
down.
anything. You're about to go into one of those Preta realms possibly, right?
Right. Yeah.
And I'm like, like, yeah, thank God for addiction in that sense, right?
Right.
I
Right.
don't
There's
wish
such
it
a
upon
clear
anybody,
kind of
but
like, yeah. Totally.
yeah.
We get really tired of our addictions, right? And
That's
then
right.
like it just becomes like a chore. It's not enjoyable
Nope.
anymore.
Nope.
But really they have to get tired of us, right? The addiction has to get tired of us. Like we're kind of just like,
Yeah.
it leaves, right? That
Yeah.
sometimes it is as simple as that. And I kind of wonder, this dawning of wisdom mind that I think must have happened with us, right? When we've met the Dharma, we're feeling just like this crap that we're doing is not working. I still feel like I have to do it and I am gonna do it, right? Like I had that period of time where I was like, I know that this is a thing that I'm gonna drop at some point that I have to drop, but I'm gonna kind of just keep doing it. And
Yeah.
and so it's like this, like in that, like those moments of like recognition but resistance, like
Hmm.
still playing
Yep.
along with the addiction. I
Yep.
think that's really where some of the wisdom mind came
Amen.
up,
So
right?
true.
Because it was like, oh,
Absolutely.
I recognize the slavery,
That's right. That's
that
right.
it was like, oh, I am so just like not in control.
Exactly.
I'm like so I am, and there were other things too that were less obvious, like sex and I guess that one's kind of obvious, but even things like TV where it felt like, well, I've got to go watch my show,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
why do I have to?
There's just that thing, whatever it is,
Right.
that thing that I just
That
have to
thingy.
have. Yeah, thingy.
Right, that
Exactly.
thing. So,
Right.
yeah, I wonder if that starts to happen with the hungry ghosts. Maybe they're like, I've been around here for like 300 years, and I still have not felt satisfied. I wonder if there's a little bit of wisdom mind that starts to develop where, they can start turning a corner a little
Well,
bit.
yeah, I mean, isn't that just it? It's the burning off of those kleshas. Is that the
Yeah,
right? I don't know if that's the right way to say it or not, but essentially a form of like purification, right? So
yeah,
like in our own experience of moving from addiction to substances, or over relying on substances, and trying to find taking them as our refuge and trying to find satisfaction in them. Like you said, there's this period of purification, sort of, where, and it's not like purifying, making ourselves holy or something, not like that, but just this, like, it's clearing up, because you're seeing, like you
yeah,
said, the wisdom mind sees like this shit's not working, it's no good,
yeah,
there must be something else, and thank goodness there's something else sitting right here. It's right here, I see
yeah.
it, and then you can compare and contrast, right? That's fantastic.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sweet. Well, in the last minute or so, I'd love to just, maybe we could just call out some things that you feel like are ways that we can prevent this,
I think you already touched on it, Jack. You were talking about
yeah.
it earlier, right?
Wisdom, developing wisdom,
That being grateful for the way things are, not over
contentment.
exaggerating the positives of those things, whatever they are, that
Yeah.
whether it's money or sex or drugs or whatever it is, not over exaggerating the good of that, seeing it clearly.
Yeah.
And if you think about all the reasons, how the many of the stories about how those ghosts got there in the first place, practicing dana, generosity, right?
Generosity.
And
Yeah.
what would give rise to that naturally, what naturally gives rise to that, is recognizing this interdependence.
Yeah. Yeah. Exchanging self for others, recognizing that
That's
we are
right.
not we are not outside of one another.
Yeah,
We
those other
exist
beings are
together.
manifestations of your dreams, so to speak. To
Yeah,
bring
yeah,
it full circle, it's still, it's not separate from you.
not separate. Well, this has been an awesome conversation. I feel like I have a lot more understanding about the hungry ghosts now and a lot of compassion for them.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
see how they got there, and I really hope that they're all going to get out and they have, delicious foods and drinks that they can actually enjoy.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
In a
Absolutely.
enlightened way. Um, but thank you so much for all your research, Daniel, and for sharing all of this wisdom with us.
Yeah, thanks for chatting it all over with me. I really appreciate it. You by far are one of my favorite dream characters.
Oh, the same goes for you. I love our conversations.
We will for the next 2 weeks, we will not have the Talk Openly show because I'm going to be in Spain. So, but when we get back, we're going to hell.
We're going to hell. And it's probably going to feel like hell in Sacramento by then.
Oh
So
yeah. Oh
very
yeah.
perfect.
I hope it's one of the, no, never mind. Never mind. Not gonna hope anything about hells. I'll just shut my mouth now. We're good.
Yeah, we're good. We're good.
I appreciate everything. I'm just grateful for Sacramento and the warmth.
Oh yeah, yes. I love Sacramento. Yeah, it's fantastic. But anyways, my friend,
All
take
right.
take care everyone listening and have an excellent trip. I hope I get to see
Thank
pictures.
you. You will. All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.